kind of a refresher. I'm going to talk about when CPS calls, what is the actual procedure? Do we give them information over the phone? If we have incarcerated patients, we've had a couple of those calls. When attorneys want to schedule depositions, and all sorts of information. So hopefully when you guys, if you signed in, you grabbed your packet down at the little check-in table there, and it's got some great information that Judy's going to go over now.
A lot of times for the patient transfers care, we need the patient to fill out a release of records. And so when you get new patients, if you could just maybe check with them and see if they filled out a record release to have their records transferred to us. They can either fill out one of our forms or they can fill out one of the previous provider forms. But that really helps us to get the record so that we can update it. And I know there's some confusion sometimes about the release form. So I'm going to encourage you guys, when you get a chance, to just go into the handouts and take a look at it. We need it filled out completely. We need the patient's name because sometimes it may say Mickey Mouse, or Minnie Mouse in this case, but maybe Minnie Mouse was married to Minnie Duck. We need their last name sometimes to be able to match up some of the records sometimes, so it really helps if they fill it out completely. There's two sections here where it says signature of patient to release information, and that's where they do not mind if we give out sensitive information. But if they ever say to you that they do not want their sensitive information released, I need you to make sure that they fill out that section because we do not alter the records. At one time we would go in, patients would say, I don't want you to release this, please, take it out of my chart, black it out or whatever. We don't do that. We will do it for a minor, but we won't do it for an adult. If the adult says that he doesn't want information released, then we're going to copy the entire chart for the patient. And the patient, if he wants to go in and take out, black out, whatever, to hand to someone else, that's up to them to do that. But we won't do it in medical records, okay? So we need also, where's it coming from? And if you could please not only have them state where it's coming from, but if you could give us an address and a phone number and a fax number, because sometimes they'll just put Dr. Bennett. Well, is it Dr. Bennett here in Washington, or is it Dr. Bennett in Florida, or wherever? We really need them to fill it out completely because it delays us trying to figure out how to get the records if we don't know who to contact. And right here where it says to who, well, who is it going to? Is it going to the patient, or did they give permission for the husband to get records, or a boyfriend, or whoever? They need to be specific. They need to put here the address and a phone number so that we can contact them to let them know that we've copied the records and they need to pick them up. Also down here where it says medical information to be released, no records at this time. That's fine. A lot of times they just want someone to be able to call in and you give them information over the phone, which is fine if they want to do that. But we need to know what information are they giving us permission to release, because we're getting a lot of releases where it says no records at this time, and we go and we look at it. Okay, what can we release? We need to know what are they giving us permission to release. All records, just records pertaining to back, records pertaining to labs. What are they telling us we can release? If we don't have anything here, we are not going to comply with that request. We're going to have to send it back to the patient. The patient's going to have to come back in and either fill out a new one, or he's going to have to find us so we can get this released to him, or we're going to have to mail it to him, or whatever. So we really need you to make sure that they fill that out. We also need to know how long the patient wants this release to be good for. If they don't specify here, it's only good for 90 days, and that's it. In 90 days, if they want additional information sent, they're going to have to come in, fill out a new release, saying, okay, what can we release again in 90 days? It always helps too if they tell us what the purpose is. Are they transferring care? Because administration likes to know, and they're keeping up with that. So if we can figure out, what the patient needs the records for, that really helps. Okay, at the bottom where it says patient or signature of patient, you need a signature here, here, either here or here and here. They have to sign it in two places. Either we can release information all, or we cannot, and then right here they have to sign it also. So if they're 13 or older, that patient needs to sign, and that's because of the protected information. And on the bottom you'll see the ages and why we're saying if they're 13 or older they have to sign. Sometimes the parents, just want immunizations or just pertaining to physical or PE or whatever, for the school. So the patient's going to have to sign it because maybe when the patient came in for whatever, they discussed with the doctor contraception or whatever. So, and the parent may want to know that. We need the patient to sign, and the parent can sign right here too, which is fine. We'll give them the other information too. But that's why we ask that the 13-year-olds, 13 and above, sign. So just maybe take a look at that and when you get a chance. But if we don't have it all filled out, it's going to delay the process. A lot of times too, what's happening is the girlfriend gave permission to the boyfriend to access her records. She got mad 10 days later and she says, I don't want him to have it anymore. So I want you to cancel it. So she calls verbally and says, don't release my information. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put an alert in the EMR registration saying patient called verbally, canceling the release to whoever. It's going to be an EMR registration, but we're also going to tell the patient, okay, you're going to have to come in though and sign a cancellation notice of release. These are in the handouts, so all you have to do is either go to the handouts and go to the vernacular search and you can put release to bring up the release form, or if you need the cancellation, that's all you have to do is just put cancel and you'll get the cancellation form. And so if you could have them do that, that would be great. But always put a note in there saying they've canceled it. Otherwise, we may be in trouble and give information out, and then they call back and say, well, I told you not to do that. So if you guys could do that, that would really help. And does everybody know where we note this in the registration section, where a patient fills out a release and it's on file? Usually it's in the EMR registration right here. It's where whatever medical records releases records or there's a release, right there is where we notice. When we send records, if there's a release, that's where we're documenting it. Or we'll also document it in the phone if we get a phone call.
And you'll see it here.
Right. Okay. And then I gave you guys a handout concerning release needed and release not needed. So if you guys get a chance to release that or read that, it's basically just saying, if they're transferring care, if a patient's self-referred, if they're giving access to someone else, we need them to fill out a release. And I know a lot of times we're sending out immunization records, and it's sort of always been the policy that, for immunizations, and it's not really in black and white saying you can't, but they are advising that if it's like for school administrative purposes that you do get a verbal or oral from the parent saying yes, you can. But and just make sure that when you do send it out, maybe the Social Security number is not on there, because I've seen a few that are printing out and it has Social Security numbers going out. So you might not want to do that. Down here it says release not needed if. Well, okay, and it says, under HIPAA, physician may disclose healthcare information about a patient without the patient's authorization under certain circumstances. And there's a whole list of, like workers' comp, for research purposes, public health, victim of crime or abuse. So our policy in medical records is when you get a call and they say they're CPS, they say they're the coroner, health department, whatever, we believe they are who they say they are, but we still ask them to please fax over something on their letterhead stationery saying that what they want, who they are, what information they're requesting, because we want to know who we're talking to. We don't give out information over the phone, and unless we see something on their letterhead, if it's an out-of-state hospital, unless it's multi-care Auburn, chances are we're not going to send them the information. We want to see something that said they're identifying who they are, what they're asking for before we're going to send it out. So I would say to you guys, if CPS, coroner, health department, outside specialist calls, if you see that there's a release in there in the EMR that's signed, dated, you're safe as long as you make sure that you have something that shows that's who they are, and but our policy in medical records is, if in doubt, we don't have a release from the patient, we don't do it until we get a release. So we lean on the side of caution. We don't want to get us in trouble, and we don't want to get Sound in trouble. So, and also from time to time, we get requests from attorneys asking for the provider to do depositions, narrative reports, have a conference either in person or by phone. So I need you as the MA or the provider to make that appointment. Medical records doesn't have access to the provider's schedule, and besides, the provider's right there with you. He'll be able to tell you when he can do it. And so the policy's been that if the provider does it on his own time, then he is reimbursed for those services. If he does it on company time, he goes to Sound Family Medicine. But I need you guys or the provider to make the appointment, and then it specifies here, if you will tell me, my required information, patient's name, date of birth, when the appointment was arranged, date and time. If you'll tell me the attorney's name, what kind of, was it a deposition? Is it just for a conference? Then I'll know how to bill it out, and I can bill it out for that provider and get the money so he can be reimbursed for his services. And so if you have any questions, if you're unsure, don't hesitate to call Medical Records, because we're there to help you. If you don't have time or you're uncomfortable faxing certain records, just let us know. We'll take care of it. That's what we're there for. We're more than happy to help you guys. If you're looking for records, let us know. We're happy to get it for you, because we know how busy you guys are, so that's what we're there for. So let us know. That's it. And that's it. Never again.
So next up is we're going to do the HITech Act. Deanna is going to just talk about that really quick. It has to do with HIPAA, with the release of medical information. That'll just take a few seconds, and then we'll move on.